So I'm not going to be able to use my mic today for reasons you can probably tell. I don't have, this doesn't work. This is my backup because I left my main one somewhere else. Although there is something I could try. Testing. Testing the microphone. Well, testing. Testing the microphone. Damn. Well, now we got a working microphone. Boot it up and get it done. It's probably gonna be a little noisy, but hey, we got a microphone. Oh, oh yeah, we do. Well, testing. All right. Damn. Well, now we got a working microphone. Boot it up and get it done. This is probably gonna be a little noisy, but hey, we got a microphone. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. It's gonna be loud and annoying for a little while. Oh, well, I can't hear anything. Testing. It's not very straight. What? Always the way to fix it. All right. Well, now I got a working microphone. do to get it done. Subscribe if you have the full links to you, but hey, we got my home. Wait a minute. Oh, not. What? Oh, wait, it's. Alright, well, now I'm gonna work at Microsoft. What you do to get it done? Subscribe if you have the full links to you, but hey. God, this is such a shitty setup. Wait a minute. Oh, takes you back to the good old days. What? Oh, wait, it's. Alright, well, now I'm gonna work at Microsoft. What you do? Whoopsies. Okay, hold on. This is gonna be difficult for me. Okay. Alright, whatever. We'll figure it out. I don't know which is which, dude. Ooh. Something. Welcome to recording, guys. This should be outletting audio. It's not. That is weird. Shit. Struggling, okay? Life can't always be dreams and popsicles. Why the fuck is this not working? Struggling, okay? It's not playing my music. Oh my god, I want to die. No. Oh. Yeah, we don't cut out the struggles here, guys. Oh. Everything was going great until I plugged in the Razer heads microphone. Yeah. Audio is coming through my headphones, right? Plug these bad boys back in. Do a little bit of this here. Dinga 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 dinga. It's not working. Dude, you're so right. Perfect. Now everything's how it should. Alright, anyways, sorry for a little bit of noise, guys. You're gonna be a little unhappy for a little bit. Alright, we're good. To get my affairs in order. Alright, we're good. One last thing to do. Get my affairs in order. Ding a ling a ding a dong. So, today I'm gonna play some Terraria. Because why the hell not? You can always get down with some Terraria. Terraria. LGBT Terraria. No, just kidding. Rounded 2. Oh, you know what? I'm retarded. But that's okay. We can all be a little retarded. Now. What am I doing wrong? Ah. It's because of Black Ops 3 and whatever. 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 No microphone. Oh, this hurts me. I'm in.
Take the garbages out the road. And
Yeah, I said I'd do that.
I'll take it.
All right. Whatever. Alright, guys. Testing. Okay, so I don't know why my audio's all fucked right now, okay? So we're just gonna have to play Terraria with no sound, okay? The only thing you get to hear is the sweet, luscious sound of the voice of the door knock keyboard. So, you know, it's finna go down. What was my last world on? Well, the only world that was created in 2025 is Build Place. So, let's see what, I hope this wasn't the world, 'cause I know where okay. Yeah. So, this one. Damn. I've decided to go really hardcore playing this mode. Jesus, man. Fucking crazy. Okay. Oh my god, I'm dead. Honestly. There's no hope for me living right now. Oh, Jesus, guys. Got a lot of stuff going on. Life is not easy for the door knock keeper. Whatever. You carry on. You don't give up. Oh god, I'm dead. I'm so dead. Okay, I need to get out of here. I need to get away from those monsters. So I haven't played much of this mode. I've just kind of started this for kicks, and here I am. So, we're gonna, I guess I'm just gonna continue on here. Oh, yeah, sorry, microphone noise. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Can't get the cord out of the fucking way. There we go. So, oh, it's probably gonna be pretty loud too. It's not gonna be convenient right now. It can't always be convenient. You know, that doorknob cabler thing. So, you know. Gonna get the fuck out of here. Ow! Why did that burn me? Ow! Oh, that's hellstone right there. That's why. That's meteorite. I mean, not hellstone. Well, that's just fantastic. Oh god, I'm fucked. There's no hope. Everything is gone. Cry. That's all you can do anymore. Cry. That's all you're allowed. Jesus. You have to be a little bit careful. That's great. That's great. And the queen bee is awakened for some reason. That's great. That. You know what I have to say about that, buddy? You got some nerve here, okay? Why don't you go watch Natalie Tran, you know? You think we accept transgenders around here? You are fucking out your goddamn mind, fool. Okay? Do you think this is just some happy joy live stream where you can come in and 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 I bow down to your personal preferences? You're wrong. Okay? This is the door not keeper. Okay? Better put on your green hard hat, pull out your M16, because it's a hard day out here. Okay? It's a hard knock life when you're working with the keyboard. So I'm like dead, kind of, right? Because I'm not gonna be able to walk on that, and then I'm gonna die, and then blah, 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 right? Here we play Terraria, so we support transgender, don't we? No. Okay, look. No, I'm not gonna make a serious statement. I'm not gonna give anybody what they want. Me make a serious statement? You're ridiculous. So, yeah. Been working with Alo. Made a little rap song. Gonna hit the towers. Life is crazy. It's going downhill. Oh! This mode is hard. But you don't want to be down here. You want to get up there, because that's where all the normal stuff is. Down here, it's just a fight to get up, because there is nothing down here. No hope, no joy, no mommy, no daddy. Just a gun to your chin, and you're in heaven. Oh my god, I'm dying, I'm burning. I'm burning. Dude, there's no escape from this ravenous hell that I'm in right now. There's no exit. Okay? Have you not seen the amazing digital turkeys? I hate that I referenced that. Oh, God. I truly am no better than that of a generic content creator. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit, bitch. Holy shit, I'm dead. Maybe. Because you know me, I get dead a lot, but when I don't, I get alive. So. Guys, I only play the female character. You're not here to be entertained. You're here to entertain. Here you go, buddy boy. You think you're here to be entertained by the door knock Keebler? Do a little this into that? No. You are here to entertain the door knock Keebler while I sit here and be entertained by my video games that not everybody has. Okay? Very rarely do people entertain. I'm dead. I don't have a weapon. I don't have a decent weapon. Oh, I'm dead now. Unless I can die this guy. Oh my god, I was actually probably gonna have a chance of doing it. And that zombie came in. And then they don't die on the meteorite because you know why? They're just special. They get special treatment. Look. You think you're free, buddy? I'll be back. I'll be back. Gotta get some things going down here real quick, because this is home base right here. This is the underworld. This is where I'll be living for the rest of eternity. Better get used to it. Now, I need stone, which I don't have any of, so it's like we can't do anything yet. We have to go fucking kick some ass. Okay? I'm a pretty disagreeable content creator. I'm missing something. Well, it's still not Keebler stream. I might as well talk about a little bit of the mental progress I've made, right? So, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I've been working and busting my ass off. That's all I can do right now is work. Bust my ass off. It's been hard to play video games. It's been hard to really do anything but work to live and live to work, baby. Make a little money, pay the bills, get it done, you know? Because life is a game. And life doesn't want you to win at all. Life wants you to fucking fail. And you know what? You just have to be like, fuck you, life. You think I'm gonna fail? You think I'm gonna give up? Sure, you know. I'm me. And who gives a fuck? I have a right to be happy. Oh god, I'm dead. I'm so dead, dude. Oh my god, dude. Oh, now I'm really dead. Oh, I'm dead. I thought I was dead before, and I was wrong. I've never played this mode. I'm gonna play it, because it's hard. This is like the mode where everything's on. It's got all the toppings, all the good shit, all the bells. Wait, that's not pause. Okay. My drink's got ice cube in her. Oh, shit. Get away from me. Get away from me. Just spilled a little bit of drink on myself. Alright, so. Shut up. And let's keep going. Here. Life hurts sometimes. How many times do I say that in a day? Probably like once or twice. You think you live in a world where you're just gonna hold down the mouse cursor and everything works out good for you? You think I'm gonna be the one to give you the reality check that you want to hear? Then you're right. Okay? Take it from a guy who's gotten several reality checks. Every day I wake up, I'm receiving a reality check. And you know what? I don't give a fuck. Because it sucks and I don't care. Those are two words that go so perfectly together. The words "it sucks" and "I don't care" go together
in a sweet combination, eternal fascination. It sucks. I don't care. Ugh. It sucks. I don't care. Go ahead and use way more rope there than I should have. Now I'm not going to have as much rope to work with in the grand scheme of things. Okay? We're escaping hell. What's new, am I right? I'm so funny. I have such a dark sense of humor. Heard some randoms in public talking about a dark sense of humor. Literally. They were like, oh, I have a dark sense of humor. And then I was walking by and I was like, why do people call it a dark sense of humor? Like, it's just humor. It doesn't need to be categorized. Everybody needs to categorize everything. It's so human. Everything always needs to be a system. Everything always needs to be a category. I was really going to step on that. No, I don't. See the fucking dark trap right there. Everything always has to be a system or a categorization. Dude, there was a kid today who wasn't talking. You know what I'm going to call that? Boom. The quiet kid. It's a label. It's a categorization. It's something that makes me feel more human, more immortalized. Because what can I say? I'm a human being. I need me my categories. I need me my systems and whatever the fuck. Because you know why? I don't feel normal without them. How can I call myself normal when something else is something that is normal? I can't call myself normal if somebody else is normal. Then I'm just as normal as anybody else. That's a very gross oversimplification of the point I'm trying to make. But, you know, it's because I'm not trying to make a point. Messing around verbally, doing some verbal backflips, a little bit, some verbal party tricks. Yeah. I think I just need to try going up in a different area because, you know, ooh, that just... What the fuck am I going to do with one fallen star? Maybe one will come by with another fallen star, and then I'll have two fallen stars. The glass is half full, guys. Is the glass half full or empty? Do I look like I give a fuck? No, because that doesn't matter. It's a glass. There's a million more things in the world than this world than a glass. The one thing you're gonna focus on is the fucking glass? Are you kidding me? Who the fuck do you think you are? Ronald Reagan? Okay? Okay? I just drooled a little bit, but ignore that. It happens to the best of us. Okay? How about this? Shut up. Isn't that one pretty cool? The glass isn't half full or half empty. Shut up. It's fucking stupid. Oh, it's the last part of the drink where all the powder, like, fixates on one little droplet. And then it tastes like more weird. Oh, man. What does this channel come to? What it's always been, you know what I'm saying? Don't not keep it. It's gonna go down like him. Man, I'm just taking constant excess damage. Oh no. that there's no escape. There probably is. Oh man. Excuse me. Not. What do you think I am? Mr. Gentleman? I haven't seen that guy since 1866. Okay? Jonathan Gentleman. Where the word came from, anyways. Jonathan Gentleman. He was a guy who wasn't gentle, but you know, that was his last name. Gentleman. That's pretty 1860 something last name, am I right? And that sounds so real because I said it. Dude, I'm so ass. I don't care, dude. I'm not gonna give up. Because it's fun. I'm having fun. Can't you tell? Whee! I'm having fun. Now I'm gonna go and try and find it. Oh, wow. Oh, that lava that I didn't see there. Oh, that's Calamity. Sorry. Had some in my throat or something. I don't know, something justifiable enough to me making that noise, but no. It's not. Hold on. Okay, so here's the thing about me and Calamity. Uh-oh. So the thing about me and Calamity is that me and Calamity don't really get along well gameplay-wise because well, let me say the basic words that mean the thing that, you know, just the basic set of words for when I start disagreeing with something. Calamity is fine. There's nothing wrong with Calamity. Although nobody said there was, except for me a long time ago. So I'm sort of talking about something I have a long-standing opinion on. When it comes to the Calamity mod, here's why I don't like to play it. But I still admit that it's a wonderful mod. It's one of the best, anyways. And it's because it takes Terraria in a direction that I don't like playing the game in. You know, I like playing my games for my own reasons. The games that I own on Steam, not games that I personally develop. That was a weird little grammar thing. But here's the reason why I don't like Calamity mod. Because it's just so basic. You know, it's how much longer can we extend the progression of the game with end game bosses and end game stuff. I'm more of a pre-hard mode type guy. My opinion, I think pre-hard mode could be so much longer. Pre-hard mode could have so much more. I think the Moon Lord could be pushed back so much farther, you know? And I think a lot of things. I think a lot of things. That's, you know, that's what happens when you have a brain. But, you know, pretty much everybody who has a brain thinks a lot of things. But at the end of the day, you know, I play Terraria in my own sort of way. You know, the game, play the game however you want to, and it's the way that you play it. And for me, I wish pre-hard mode was longer. I wish bosses all the way up to, I wish fucking Okram was still in the game, and I wish Okram was a pre-hard mode boss, and I wish hard mode didn't start until the Moon Lord. And it's, you know, disagreeable under as many circumstances as you may want to include. But no. Here's what I think. I think the Wall of Flesh should be the boss that leads into hard mode, but I think Okrim should be a pre-hard mode boss, and I think there should be way more bosses in pre-hard mode, way more biomes in pre-hard mode. I think the world should be infinite, and my Terraria would be a mess. Okay, I'm not a vanilla Terraria guy. I don't play Terraria for reasons. I don't play Terraria for the what it's supposed to be. Anyways, not for the purpose of playing it for what it's not supposed to be, but for the purpose of I like a certain thing about a video game and I have no idea what that is. And when I try to like make that experience for myself, it just turns into what it turns into because I don't know how to code. What do I look like? A genius? It doesn't take a genius to know how to code, but it takes somebody who knows how to code. I don't know how to fucking code. I don't know how to make a thing. Everything I do is muscle memory, but pretty much everything anybody does is muscle memory. So, just trying to give you a little bit of an example. I'm trying to make a lot of points at once right now. It's kind of like trying to chew multiple things at once. You know, like where your mouth is all full and you're like, you know, trying to eat, but instead I'm trying to talk about multiple things at one time. Which I wish I could not do as good, but thing is, when it comes to Terraria, I really don't know what I like in a mod. I like Terraria. It's fun. I mean, look at it, I'm having fun. You know, I'm dying over and over again, and usually I'd be like, fuck it, I just want to quit, I can't do it anymore. But instead, I'm just kind of like, whatever. Just gonna keep doing this until I make a little bit of success. And keep doing whatever comes after that until I make a little success. But, I don't know. You know, I guess I haven't really given Calamity a fair shot, right? But, you know, because I've only ever played it with other mods. Because, like, I don't know, play one mod? Are you kidding me? When there's so many mods that I can play with? Like, why just one? You know? Because then you beat the game. And then you have to feel that feeling of, man, I finished it. That doesn't feel good. I finished it. It's over. You know? Why not play with a different mod after that? Then you relive the whole feeling all over again. Man, I finished it. Shit. I don't want to finish it. I never wanted to end. You know, I guess it's that human nature of wanting to be immortalized that's on the inside. But at the end of the day, you know, one of these days I'm gonna have to start a playthrough and I'm gonna have to finish it. And that's such a hard thing to do for me because I never want to finish it. I don't want it to be over. I don't want to fight the end boss and have it be done. But that's not where my fun is, you know? My fun is, you know, when I still have a lot left to do, but I haven't done everything. You know? The middle part, you know? You play Clash of Clans? That's an entirely different example. It's really hard to say what part of Clash of Clans is my favorite. But if you're playing Minecraft, I'd say my favorite part of the game is like you know, why don't I just use Terraria as an example? My favorite part of the game in Terraria is like probably like just beating the Eater of Worlds or just beating the Brain of Cthulhu. Just right there. Just that point where you haven't really killed Skeletron yet. Dungeon is still a little bit mysterious, even though you already know what's inside. You know? Where it's just kind of like right in the middle of everything. Where you still have everything to do and you have done a little bit. You know? And I suppose I could extend that, you know, experience by just building, which I've been doing on mobile. You know, I actually have a nice little thing going on mobile right now. Hold on. How can I show this off? How can I show this off? So, here's what I'm going to do. I can't see viewers, which makes me feel weird because that's always what I do, but I don't care. I'm going to put that aside for a minute so I can kind of show you what I've been working on. This is why I kind of hate that I do this, because I start a really nice world. I start a really nice world somewhere where, you know, where I don't normally play. So, like, not PC. And then I want to play on PC now, so... how do I play on Wi-Fi? That's the thing here. Let me go ahead and host that world. Maybe I can join via like Wi-Fi. But I don't think that works. I looked it up yesterday and it said it worked, but I don't know if it works. I think I'm not going to be able to do this. No, that's not going to work. Well, whatever. I built a little base on here, and it's pretty nice. It's a nice little setup I got going, you know. I've tried streaming on mobile, but at the end of the day, there's no good. There's not. You know, I mean, maybe if you want to be like fine with not doing everything I do on a stream, but you know, what do you think this is? Cut back land? Think I'm gonna cut back? You think no. I'm not gonna cut back. Okay, the door on Keebler goes all out. Period. The fucking end. Okay? Cut back. No matter how much on the inside, sometimes things are like, cut back a little bit. Maybe you'd have a little more success. You cut back just a smidge. I don't give a fuck. Success? What do you think we're running here? An operation? You were wrong. What we're running here is a house with no walls that you can see. Okay? A house with 2 floors and no walls. You know? You built the floor before you built the house? That's impossible when there's 2 floors, because there's no support for the floor that's the second floor. Yet somehow it just kind of stays there anyways. You know? A weird tower missing all the supports that it needs to stay upwards, yet it just does somehow. That, my friends, is the door not Keebler. You know? You didn't do anything you were supposed to do. You know? Yet you have a house with 2 floors and possibly not. And even I sit confused. Like, why do I have anything that I have? What the fuck is this game? I don't give a fuck. We're in it. We're in the game. And what am I gonna do? Turn around? Something interesting is happening. How can I put something down when something interesting is starting to happen? You know? If there's a grease fire on the stove, you don't just fucking leave it there. You just kind of stand around like, oh, I'm not supposed to throw water on it. Well, what do I do? Just kind of sit and watch it burn? I mean, it looks cool, so why not? You know, even if my whole house burns down with it. But there is no house. There is no walls. There is nothing. It's kind of like a black hole. You know? The singularity at the center is me. I don't got no mass. I don't got no nothing. Somehow there's mass anyways. I don't know. Everything's a mystery. You know? Like, you don't think I sit around sometimes and I'm just like, why do people even subscribe to me? You know, like, what are you here for? Exactly. You don't agree with anything I do. You know? You don't even know what I'm about. As far as I know. How obvious do I make myself? You know? Do I even know what I'm trying to do? No. You know? Do I even know what this whole thing is? No. I'm just doing it anyways. Because it's just kind of what happens when you get the door knocked even. You just kind of get this for some reason. You know? Because time is so linear. It moves so weirdly. What am I going to do tomorrow? I don't even fucking know. You know? And how the fuck did I do this? How am I sitting here right now doing this? How do I have the confidence to just sit here and talk to myself? Onyx Blaster. Jesus. It's been a while. I believe you need the shotgun. The shotgun that you get from the arms dealer. And then... I'm thinking. Shotgun from the arms dealer. And then... I think some dark shards. And some souls of night, maybe. Something like that. Dark shards and some souls of night. And a shotgun from the arms dealer. If I'm wrong, you know, just know that one day I would have been right, because I used to be a total fucking nerd about this game. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, when I was, like, fucking younger, in my Terraria prime, back in my day, okay, I used to know how to make that fucking drill mount from memory. The one that needs all the mushrooms and the silt and shit and whatever else. I used to know how to make that right off the top of my head. And now I don't. Because I'm fucking, you know, I'm not exactly a gamer much. You know, I still play games and I play them fucking religiously, but, you know, I ain't no gamer anymore. I used to play on Xbox, and then we'd go and trade, and, like, you know, you'd be like, hey, you know, I got some odd amount of loot bags that'll trade you for this thing, and then you go on, and then you have everything in your inventory, and you make sure the other guy knows that you have it, and then he drops what he has, and you take it, and you leave. And I don't know how I didn't feel like shit for doing that, but it's a fucking game, so I don't know. It was a different time. But some people would do that to me, and then I would get really pissed, so maybe that's why I didn't feel any sympathy. This guy was planning on doing the exact same thing. You know, as I continue to feed. But, yeah. Welcome to the Door Not Keep, in which it's finna go down. There's so much chaotic energy flowing around here, guys. Spontaneous energy. It's like we're going to Portland. Literally. You know? You never know what's going to happen. You might turn around and everything's different for some reason. Like when you're in Portland at midnight. Because I'm one guy who likes to go to cities after like midnight. Which I don't do that anymore because that was kind of a, you know, that was kind of a young teenager, young and dumb thing I used to do with my buddies. We'd go to like Portland after probably like 12 o'clock at night. Portland's a pretty big place. Portland, Oregon. It's a pretty busy place. A lot of people there in the day. You go there at midnight, and everybody just fucking disappears. It's like, holy shit, you know? Except for, people who probably gonna hurt you, but, like, I didn't see them either, so it was really weird, Just went dead silent. And then, I got hella drunk, threw up in my own area, and then fell, and, yeah, it was a very drunk night. That was, probably not the best example, actually, because it was probably, like, one of the worst nights I've ever had in my life, but, Woke up in the morning, hungover as hell. I was like, oh my god, dude, what the hell happened last night? It's like, oh yeah, my friends freaking harassed me, but then I realized I was just drunk as hell, and I accused them of shit. It's fucking crazy. Stay away from alcohol. It's destructive. Like, if you really think you can handle it, if you really think you can just take one drink, and maybe two, just relax, then by all means. But chances are, if you drink one and you obsessively want more, then you should just stop and never do it again. Because, it's not something that's easy to quit. It is if you realize just what exactly you're about to get yourself into, that stone you're about to throw. Philosophica. What the fuck just killed me? It can't even be too dark? Are you kidding me? What is this? That one Minecraft mod that I can't remember the name of? We got here the shack. Okay? The shack. The shack. Man, I can't even tell you guys how much I've just gone through my brain, man. And you don't even know how much I want to talk about it, but I just don't know how to say it in a way that doesn't sound like I'm... So, there's a certain way you could speak about things in the mind. Sometimes it sounds like, you're speaking about the things in your brain like you think they're real, but you're not. What you're saying what was going on in your brain. Sometimes when I talk about Blue, my friends are like, it sounds like you're talking about her as if she's real. I'm like, dude, whatever. I'll stop. It's not like you really gonna understand. But, whatever. But, at the end of the day, I've gone through the ins and outs of my mind. I've gone all the way, I haven't gone all the way to the back. Who am I kidding? Mind is a big place, and you can't see. It's just, all you can do is think. It's not a place at all. Who even fucking knows what it is? It's just a place where things are. Where random ideas come based off memories you've had. And, like, one time I had a movie, and it was just, I don't know if you've ever seen Sonic Prime. The show, Sonic the Hedgehog. But I just had a whole fucking dream where it was just a movie about Sonic the Hedgehog. And a little bit of the game content in there, too. It was weird. Very entertaining dream, though. I wasn't even in it. Nothing that's in my life was in it, except for random pieces of Sonic the Hedgehog that are just kind of floating around in my mind, At the end of the day, like, that's what I'm trying to figure out right now, Am I really conscious, or am I just a bunch of pieces of memory, Am I just a bunch of fucking experiences that I remember, Is the only reason I'm able to remember things because, animals just kind of need to remember things about their environment, because that's just like a key thing to being a mammal with eyes and whatever the fucks? I don't even fucking know, I'm thinking about a lot more than Terraria, okay? Thinking about, like, I've had all the nihilistic thoughts you can think about. Is reality even real? Is life a simulation? Is Saturn a big fucking piece of machinery that's running the whole thing? I don't give a fuck, because I'll never find the answer to that. What's even the point in looking for that? You're never going to find the answer to the definitive answer to the universe, no matter where you look and no matter what you find. But you can find a lot of cool combinations of words that make things make sense and help you come to terms with death a little more. And when you're really getting literal, that's kind of how you just end up thinking. You're just like, whatever. Reality is the way it is, and you're never gonna find the answer. But thinking like that is boring. Congratulations, you found a way to make everything meaningless. You've successfully found a way to convince yourself that everything is meaningless, and there's not a point in thinking about or doing anything. And that was something I learned back in treatment. So we did a little bit of philosophy stuff in our groups, and that's just basic stuff, whatever. Congratulations, you're a nihilist. You figured out a way to make everything mean nothing, and if that's what makes you content, for sure. If you want to be more material, then there's different ways of thinking about things. If you want, if you want life to have a little bit more color, a little bit more detail, a little bit more to experience, then you might as well just accept that you don't know everything. So you're never really gonna know the answer to the universe. You're never gonna know if God is real. You're never gonna know if fucking the universe was created or if it just happened. That's just, what's the point in trying to figure that out? You weren't there. That's all lost time. You can find it in space or something. I don't know. You want to figure out the little bits and pieces that make existence feel cooler. You walk outside with a new perspective and it's a new day and reality has new meaning. Then there's different, when you find what you're looking for in language, and you find what you're looking for in endless amounts of random words that are very material, you basically just have to accept that, everything might just be something that happened for no reason. Whatever, accept that as a possibility, but, don't let it be the only thing. Don't let it be the fucking, what's the thing? Don't let it be the fucking stick that broke the camel's back or whatever, Just because, there's a lot of evidence to show that there, just because there's a lot of evidence to show that everything happened by chance doesn't mean that everything happened by chance. It just means that there's a lot of evidence to show that that's what happened. There's also a lot of evidence to show that there's a God that's real, but it really all depends on how you interpret things, Like, oh, what about that one time something really good happened to me? That's what I consider evidence of a God being real. That's great. For me, there is no evidence to disprove or prove the idea of God, and that's why I hate thinking about it. It's chasing my tail. It's whatever. I've thought about God a million times, inside out, upside down, out of the box, all over the place. There's no point. Instead, I just kind of think randomly. Kind of like what I do when I go out in the dense brush of nature. I don't know what I'm stepping on, but I'm stepping there because it's gonna lead somewhere else. And there's a lot of things to think about. Even if you have some philosophies that are incompatible with others, it's like how I'm throwing together all these Minecraft mods all the time. Except the mods themselves, in this case, would be little sentences that mean something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what happens after death. I could be nothing. Or I could go to hell or go to heaven or whatever. There's a bunch of combinations of sentences that can condition you to think a certain way about death or about life. And, you can also make your own, because when it comes to what you believe in, you know, when it comes to God and spirituality, it's really just kind of all about how it makes you feel, and really all about what you feel is true for yourself. You know, when you look at it from a more, I don't know the word for it, but it's when you look at it from a certain perspective that that's the case. You know, I live in a mysterious world. You know, I will never know what is really going on, and frankly, I don't give a fuck. You know, as long as I'm not like, I don't know. I mean, as long as something, I don't know what that something is yet, but there's gonna be there's gonna be an as long as something somewhere. You know, as long as it's not like this or that. I don't give a fuck. I don't know what the this or that is. You know, I haven't really found anything where I consider it to be like, oh well, as long as it's not this way. You know, I've just kind of found a lot of things where, oh, it's this way. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to work around that because, you know, what really do I want? What do I not want? You know? Because I go back, I mess around a lot with like, when you wake up and you're conscious, and you're no longer unconscious, and you're awake, and you just feel everything around you, and you see everything around you, and you hear everything around you, and everything around you is just perceptible. Like, there's a lot you can do to sort of mess around with the way that feels on the inside and all over, you know? And your mood has a pretty big thing to do with that, you know. Sometimes I feel inferior, sometimes I feel a plus or a minus, a 1 or a 0. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I kind of recognize that those are just weird, like, I don't know. You ever seen those things at the hospital that just beep and it's showing like the activity from your heart? It's like one of those things, you know, one of those weird line graphs, you know. That's just, in terms of how I feel, that's kind of what life is now. Whether I feel good or bad, you know. The lower parts of the scale being, you know, like a stock chart. That's what I'm talking about. You know, the lower the stock line goes on the stock chart, the worse you feel. The higher it goes, the better you feel. You know. But at the end of the day, you know, like, what can I do with like just my perception? You know, like whether or not I look around and everything feels like a tunnel. You know what I mean? Tunnel vision is a huge thing. It's really easy to give myself tunnel vision. You know. But that's only if I'm feeling like I don't have enough oxygen, or if I'm feeling like, you know, a wide other variety of effects, you know. And that's just one thing, you know. What the world feels like, whether I walk around and feel like everything is fake or real, you know, that's a whole different sort, you know. Like, when I look at the grass, when I look at anything, and, you know, I don't know. You know, my perception of it can kind of change. Reality looks like reality until you start thinking, maybe this is just a really highly detailed piece of animation. And then suddenly it doesn't look so photorealistic anymore. It looks like really good graphics. You know what I mean? Like, but, you know, you can make things look like that for yourself if you think a certain way. And, you know, and then it's just like, damn, you know? Like, why can I only do that? You know? It's like, it's not exactly the same thing as unfocusing your eyes, where suddenly everything looks blurry, but it's like, you know, it's just how you interpret what you're looking at, you know? And that's where a lot of the visual nonsense has a lot to do with it, you know? Just how you interpret what you're looking at, and then you kind of decide what it visually means to you. Kind of like when someone says something to you, and then, you know, someone can say one thing and have it mean multiple different things. That's kind of how it works with like visually perceiving something. At the end of the day, I'm looking at a fidget spinner and it's not going to be anything but a fidget spinner. But you know, just kind of the way it looks in real life can vary, you know? Like, I don't know. Do I think real life really looks like real life, you know? Or does it just look like a really, you know, it just looks like a texture with a lot of polygons. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're gonna start seeing it all triangle-y and shit, but you know, like, but like, how realistic does something have to look for me to like look at it and be like, this is a real object, you know, and not like a, not like a fucking 3D animated object, you know? It's just, there's a lot of things to think about on a day-to-day basis, you know? And there's just so many fun things you can do with your vision, you know? And then, you know, not saying I'd ever do this, but, you know, you also kind of have to be careful because, you know, maybe if you kind of like, you know, maybe if you like, I don't know, you know, live in too much stress too frequently, you know, who fucking knows what can happen, you know? Stress can have a lot of power over people, not spiritually, but just like, you know, in terms of how you react to it, you know? Then you can get into how many different forms of suffering there are and what forms of suffering are really good or bad for you, and yeah. There's just so many, there's never an end to how overcomplicated you can make things for yourself. You know? I mean, look at me. I'm sitting here rambling. I don't even know if I'm staying on track half the time. I'm trying to talk about things that feel like they're similar to each other, you know? Trying to talk about things that feel like they have a connection to each other. I'm just kind of like reaching in my brain. It's kind of like that fucking, you know? It's kind of like just spitting out a bunch of random shit that's in circulation, you know? Just kind of having things appear on my mind and I'm saying, you know? And now I'm thinking, like, am I speaking my thoughts, or am I just like, or is talking just like a, you know, like I don't know, like, where are these words coming from, you know, and why am I saying them? You know, like, is this really what I think? Is this what I perceive, or is this like my assessment of what I've been perceiving and what I currently feel like it is based on the way I remember it? You know, is anything live, really? Except for the screen, you know? Are the things I'm thinking live? Like, I don't know, am I even alive? Am I even alive at all right now? I don't fucking know. What's gonna tell me that? What's really gonna tell me if I'm alive and perceiving this experience the way it is? Nothing. You know, nothing's gonna give me an answer that really feels satisfactory to me because, you know, it all depends on whether or not I'm willing to believe what I see in front of me is real, you know? It's all whether or not I'm it all depends on whether or not I'm willing to trust my own judgment or, you know, accept my own anything. You know. And then I can make things make no sense for myself, you know. Like already things are getting a little scrambly. I should probably try to maneuver the conversation into something else. The one-sided conversation into something else. So, you know, I don't chase my tail. You know, not my literal tail, but, you know, go in circles thinking about something that doesn't have an answer. You know? Just humility. You know? I can really just end up blank minding myself pretty easily. You know, the only thing I feel like I know is that there was a time where I wasn't there, and then there was a time where I was, and then ever since that point in time, I've just kind of been there. You know, like I see all these other people die all the time. Like, you know, what if I died? How would that feel? Where would I be? Would I just cease to exist? Probably. You know, does it even matter? No, but I'm going to think about it anyways because it's interesting, you know? Do I have really a specific motivation to think about it? You know, I'm just kind of letting my brain run, you know? I just kind of turned it on. Now it's doing things, you know? Like, I don't know, you know? Kind of like when I have a fidget spinner anytime because, you know, either way, two things are doing something, and, you know, Jesus, why am I dying? Two things are doing something, you know, and it only feels like there's two of them. You know, one of me is playing this video game, and the other of me is sitting here talking and browsing my mind, you know. And there's only two. It's not like I can do three, you know. Like, can I play a game and fidget and think all at the same time? I mean, not really, because, you know, if I take my hand off of the mouse, which is also doing things, then my hand is just fidgeting with something, you know. And one of my hands is just doing something, you know, while the other is, you know. There's only two. There's only two of something doing anything. And it's half and half. My attention span is split into two. And, you know, I can try and make it feel like there's three attention spans, but there isn't. There's only two. You know. Maybe there's only one. You know. Maybe there's only one that's doing two things at once. You know. I'll never know that. There's two halves of my brain, so maybe there is two. You know. And then some people kind of believe in a second self or whatever, fucking, what is it called? Unconscious self or something. I hate that. It's boring. Boring, and it's overcomplicated because, you know, a lot of people just speak really definitively. Like, how can you speak so definitively? You know? But there is things that are known definitively, you know? If I drop this, it's gonna fall downwards, not fall upwards, you know? And that's a whole bunch of verbal monologue, you know, about what that is and why it happens, you know. I don't know. How long have I been fucking going at this? God damn, bro. You know. In terms of how I observe myself, it's so hard to have a self. It's like, you know, like, why is, you know, how am I supposed to keep the idea of myself so solidified, you know? How am I supposed to keep the idea of myself in one piece? How am I supposed to even have the idea of myself, you know? Because I don't look on the inside and see me. I just see a lot of shit going on that has a very small amount to do with what feels like is going on the outside, you know? Like, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, my mental existence feels like a parallel to my physical existence. And it doesn't feel like they directly ever really cross. It feels like, it feels more like, you know, some things happen in my brain sometimes. But, you know, some things on the outside can make things feel like they happen in my brain. You know? So that it feels like there's some level of cause-effect relationship sometimes, but if I don't want there to be, then there isn't. You know? There still is, whether or not I want it to be or not, but, it's like, I don't know. Everything just feels like a bunch of senses. And in terms of spirituality, it only feels as spiritual as I let it get. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, spirituality is such a thing. It's such a thing that only really does as much for me as I want it to do. Which is like an emotional boost maybe, and a different outlook on life, and different interpretation of everything around me. Physical and mental interpretation, and how it can make you more calm based on how much you have in your brain. Because if you really clear your mind, then you kind of won to some extent. If you clear your mind and you're not thinking about anything, congratulations. You're not thinking about anything. And you might even feel a little bit more peaceful. But, what if I don't want to feel peaceful? I just want to think. And I want to see what happens. And then maybe keep track of whether or not the same thing happens every time. And then, once I kind of keep a schedule of the way I think and when I think and what I think about when, and, once I kind of understand what I think about and what makes me think that way, and once I get all the T's crossed and the I's dotted, then, I think about, like, maybe I can just kind of interrupt the way that I think and start thinking differently once I kind of become aware of these thought shifts, and then just kind of make myself do something I wouldn't normally do, not to my inconvenience, but to my curiosity, and then things just get so weird, because you can bend a little bit out of that, I guess out of that rhythm, and then once you've thought of something new, it just becomes part of the rhythm again, and inserts itself into somewhere where something else would have been, where you used to think about it at that time, I'm sad that I just died there. Makes me frustrated. And then sometimes you're like, damn, do other people even exist? They probably think the same thing if they do, But what does that really affect me? Unless, our existences interact, and then, I get a little bit of their perspective, which just kind of, one of two things will happen. It'll either educate me that someone else is experiencing what I'm experiencing and whatever, or, you'll connect on those experiences and maybe form a small friendship of some variety, or, some level of a connection. But, like, I've just observed a lot of these things. I love observing things because, then you just kind of know what happens and you have knowledge, You have, like, I don't know the word for it. This theory doesn't mean what I thought it meant, and, you have, I guess, like, an observation of something that you can kind of use to mess around with that thing, see if your observation of what happens when you do this makes it do something different when you do something else. Everything is just so weird. It just never ends, Because then you can also kind of change what works for you, and then, it's kind of like that strange matter stuff where, like, suddenly, like, you figure out the way it works, but, what if you can change what works for you, and then suddenly it works differently, and then things that worked before didn't work anymore. It's like, oh, this is weird, Because now it works differently, and I'm aware that it works differently because I changed what works for me somehow, done in a way where I can't exactly keep track of what exactly I did to make that feel so differently, But like, can you even really change what works for you? You know, was it just placebo all along? You know, do I really have that much free will over the way things work on the inside? You know, I don't know. Was it all quantum probability? You know, can you really do anything that wasn't supposed to be done? You know, something that you're not supposed to be doing is kind of a thing because, you know, you're doing something that you like. When it comes to like human not supposed to do something, you're stealing, for example. You're doing something you know you're not supposed to do and you do it anyways, you know, whatever. But like, that's what you're not supposed to do in the human world. But like, you know, in terms of like the universe, like, are you really supposed to do that? Like, does that even matter? No. There we are again. It doesn't matter. So what's even the point in thinking about it? You know? It didn't matter that you did that. You know? From a nihilistic perspective. You know? I mean, you did it. I mean, it was done. You know? But like, I don't know, you know, we can get all fancy, you know, hit the buzzwords and be like, oh, was it a higher power that decided whether or not I was supposed to do that? Was it all predetermined? You know, I don't know. I'll never know. But, you know, you can do as many tests as you want to try and determine whether something was predetermined. And you know, if anything's predetermined, first of all, you're just never gonna know because, you know, like, you know, I mean, what are you gonna do? Choose between 1 and 3 boxes or something? Like, what are you trying to, like, first of all, what are you trying to figure out is, you know, what is it that you're trying to figure out is predetermined or not? And also, like, how are you gonna figure out if it's predetermined or not? When, you know, you figuring out in general might be something that was predetermined. I mean, you know, you're not going to figure it out because if it's a system, how are you going to break it, you know? It's like the system in the fucking United States. Like, how are you going to beat the financial system that everybody wants to beat, you know? How are you going to get rich with this one simple trick, you know? The same goes for knowledge. How are you going to know this thing you weren't supposed to know? You're not. Because as far as you know, doesn't matter what you know, there's endless brick walls to run into, you know? Maybe you'll never know something you weren't supposed to know, you know? How do you even know you're looking in the right place? Bunch of really repetitive questions, you know, that get old pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, you know, like, when you ask why, it's gonna be like, you know, when you ask why, it's going to be like the fucking Mandelbrot, where there is not really an end to the why, you know? There's never an end. There's never going to be an end to the why. So it's more, asking a question can start to feel like more of a hobby, you know? Maybe I ask these questions because I'm aware that it never ends, and that's what I like about it, is that it never ends, you know? It's just one of those infinite things about reality, you know, when it really isn't infinite, out of true definition, outside of human anything, there is an answer. But, you know, there is an answer, but it's not going to be an answer that you're going to find anytime soon, you know. What are you going to use to find it, you know? And how are you going to find it without looking back in time, which is something that might be impossible or not impossible, you know? And even if it is, what are you going to use to do that, you know? Are you going to be the guy to do it? You fucking figure out how, you know? You know, and then some would say, oh, and we are limited by our own capability, by our own ability to do things, by our own motivation, by our own this and that. limited by our own whatever, a million different words that could be said. At the end of the day, there is no end of the day. Okay? Because the sun will always come back up. Okay? Someone will always decide to do something shitty. Which is why I've decided that existence and suffering go hand in hand. You know? Like, there will always be another Hitler. Okay? Uh-oh. I said something. A little bit. You know? There's always going to be another bad guy. You know? There's always going to be another movie. You know? America isn't always going to be the main protagonist. Antagonist? Protagonist? I don't fucking know. You know. So if you know, piece it together. You know? And how are you going to stop another guy from becoming you? What are you going to do to make sure that the other guy doesn't evil? Stop him from suffering? Stop him from experiencing something that makes him want to be evil? No, you're not. Because who the fuck are you going to find that's going to do that thing that makes that thing that blah, 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 blah. Okay? Another big butterfly effect of questions. Okay? Reality pretty much is a question, but it's like not like a physical question because that's not. Question is a thing, not a physical thing. You know, everybody wants to know why. Everything wants to. Even if they say they don't want to know why, they do. Because if there was a why, you know, you think they would turn around and leave it there? Probably. Depends on the way they think. Maybe they don't. You know, maybe the reason I think that is because of the way that I think. How do you know, someone wasn't originally thinking that way and then changed the way they were thinking because that's how you think they would think, and then they want to think a way that you didn't think they would think? You know? Because how do you know anything with... Okay, so now we get back here. To, back to square one. How do we know anything has ever been done unintentionally? Except for, like, maybe tripping over your shoelace, right? Except for something that was blatantly an accident or an intention, you know? How do you know anything was not intentional? When I make these musics that I make, it's never... well, the intention is to make a song, with a certain tempo, I guess, even though I barely even know what tempo is, The intention is to make something, but did you intend to do it the way you did it? Some, yeah, some no. You'll never know. Unless you were there. Unless you know what was going on inside that person's head. Unless you're like a psychologist, but even then, a lot of psychologists go off of fucking statistics. And when it comes to statistics, I have my things that I think about statistics, and I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to do it anyways, because that's what I do. I talk about it, that I think about. And honestly, I fucking hate statistics. I hate them and I love them at the same time, because they kind of, I don't know, I don't think, when it comes to therapy, I don't think statistics are valid at all in most circumstances. I don't think statistics are very valid in therapy because you're always going to meet someone who does something a little bit different. And, and anybody can change their perspective. So statistically, it can go from being one way to the other. Do the majority of people really think that? I mean, from my perspective, the majority of the time, I am constantly flip-flopping between everything. Okay? Maybe not everything. Maybe that was a very gross over-summarization of everything. Very gross summarization. Is that even the word, over something? I don't fucking care. You get what I mean. I don't know. There's a lot of statistics. Statistically, I'm probably going to die if I go up here because there's so many ways to die. Does that make it an 100% chance? That's what statistics are for things not being in 100% chance. Maybe it is my misunderstanding of statistics why I don't like them. But you know, every therapist I've ever worked with that is kind of, you know, I don't know. I can almost sometimes I can tell when I'm like, you know, when someone's going off of statistics to judge me. You know, I'm kind of thinking like in the background. I'm kind of thinking like what is this person gathering about me statistically? You know, like what do I know about myself statistically? Do they know more about me than I do myself? I mean, all I've ever done is observe myself like endlessly and pick up on habits that I grab and drop. And the only statistics I've ever gained for myself is that statistically, you know, I never know what I'm going to do next. But I kind of do sometimes, but I kind of don't. It depends on how long of a period of time you're looking over and what specifically you're looking at. And like, if I quit marijuana completely, what are the chances that I'm going to end up smoking weed again? Depends on what I really feel on the inside. You know? Like statistically, am I more likely to feel like I want to be done? I don't fucking know. I'm not a psychologist. You know? Maybe a psychologist would know more about me than I do myself. You know? Statistically, the only thing that I see is the statistics of, like, natural human reflexes. That feels like something that's statistically gonna, like, be the same, right? Like, someone, like, moves their hand at me when I'm not expecting it, I'm probably gonna go like this, but maybe my reaction time is pretty good, so maybe I'm not. I don't know, guys. Is my goal even to make any progress today? I don't fucking know. Am I gonna take a break? I know what I want to do. All right, I'll see you on the mobile.